Hi, friends. Welcome to another installment of my top 5 series. What I previously uploaded was my top 5 favorite Mothership palettes from Pat McGrath Labs, and now we're just going into the Mothership consonant version. I think these debuted in the same year, maybe 2017. It was either 2016, 2017. After the 10 pan Mothership palettes, we had the 6 pans. And I think this was the brand's attempt to reach a wider audience. Those who weren't crazy about investing in a $125 palette with the special shades. They wanted the Pat McGrath experience, but edited, maybe a little more accessible. So we had the 6 pan Mothership palette that housed mattes and metallics, and then we had the holiday release, I believe in 2018, where that was a fun ride. You had a mixture of different, well, you had one palette that was all metallic, but you had a little bit of duochrome action as well, and then we had some 6 pans from then on sprinkled in that gave us, you know, a good time. I have to say, this was tougher for me to arrange than the 10 pan Mothership list, because I love them all and I try to really like hone in to the reasons, and I might change my mind after this video. Like when I'm editing this footage, I'm like, why did you decide on that? But I think the 5 that I chose is a good list, so let's get into it. These are not ranked in any way, shape, or form. They're just my favorite 5. I'll make sure to put them down in the description box below with the timestamp. I'm going to start with one of the original 3, and the Mothership name that took out all the vowels. They were corresponding to the bigger Mothership palette. So there was a subliminal, sublime, and subversive version in the 6 pan format. And when I swatched this particular one for the first time in Sephora, it was one of those things, was like, I gotta buy this. Like, this is incredible. And it is the subliminal Mothership 6 pan version, specifically named Platinum Bronze. This color story, although cool, I'll show you right now. Let me take off this watch because, you know, I know better. I need the wrist real estate. Now I have bronze ambition on standby. Many of you might be thinking, why in the world are you picking platinum bronze? These metallic shades in platinum bronze, I don't know what it is. The smoothness, okay? Specifically, ritualistic. You look at the, I'm telling you, it's like a lavender hued taupe. I can't even describe the shade, but the softness, the silkiness, paired with deep velvet. Although the only matte in this palette, versatile in terms of how many combinations you can do with that shade. Lash line definition, buffing out on the outer lid to create that smoke. You don't need a ton because the metallic shades themselves do battle by themselves, because you just, you know, blend the edges, and look at that. You got it all over your lid. You got a little bit of shine on the lid and this blurred effect through the crease. You can't get easier than that. Telepathic Taupe. This shade right here, ooh, my goodness. It has like an antique finish to it alongside Smoke and Mirrors. Smoke and Mirrors. Beautifully smoky. All by itself. Isn't that just gorgeous? The last two, Sextrovert, is going to give you a bronze moment, but cooler overall, just to match the overall vibe of the palette. This bronze right here, full-bodied, smoky, earthy, rich, paired with deep velvet. Even if you just wanted to wear this all by itself, the effect it has when you blend on lid crease and lower lash line is profound. It's just so easy to achieve, and the texture, again, silky smooth on the lid, is not going to have the same pow-wow effect as the Astral shades or the Blitz shades found in her 10 pan Motherships, but sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you just want a little bit of sheen on the finish, But again, the texture is amazing. And to highlight any of these shades, you have Platinize. Definitely cooler overall, but look how beautifully, like, it's like a silver, like a taupey silver. Check out this entire story of Platinum Bronze. I had to put it on this list. Just one of my most favorite 6-pan color edits out of the entire collection. And now I need to use this more, 100%, because I get how I can become apprehensive about these shades, how they could be a little heavy duty, how they could give you a lot all on their own for the day. But you know what? I gotta get over that because this, extraordinary. A lot of these are discontinued. I get it. You're like, why would you show us? Well, this video is to serve several purposes. Is for myself and you friends to nerd out on eyeshadow colors and textures. Who else are we going to do this with? And perhaps encourage us to use what we already have. If you got these already and they've been collecting dust, we gotta crack back in. Let me present the next one, and this was within the same release. As Subversive found itself in my original top 5, naturally, the Mothership Subversive version, specifically Vie En Rose, has to find itself on this list. You know what? Truth, I was hopping between this and Rose Decadence. I love Rose Decadence. The reason why I chose Vie En Rose over Rose Decadence was because of one shade, and it was Paranormal. This is probably one of the most beautifully colored mauves I have in my entire collection. When I encountered this shade for the first time, I wasn't ready because all by itself, it just gives you, it just opens the gateway for so many possibilities. Pink, hot pink, violet, just all the colors. Okay, let me start by swatching Rose Risque. Okay, yes, kind of giving me similar vibes as to what's found in Divine Rose 1, but there's like almost a violet flip in there. I don't know what it is. It's softer from what you've seen in Platinum Bronze. That's more of like a satin moment. If you wanted to get more in the metallic realm, Euphoria, please. Euphoria, are you kidding me? So gorgeous. And then, yes, of course, you gotta have the gold. So we do have Gold Nectar. But Purple Rain, I think because people were having a hard time, it was Blitz Purple in her holiday astral quads that dried out on them. But this is still kicking. Look at that color. It is vibrant, electric, definitely is giving me subversive vibes, but this color story definitely more monochromatic, I think, as you can see, dominating the mostly purple and pink color story. And then lastly, we have Pale Fire, precursor to Pale Fire Nectar. You could use this as any of, for the highlighting purposes in Vie En Rose, and why not Golden Nectar? Let's just hop in your typical gold that you find in any Pat McGrath palette, but it works out. You know what I mean? If you pair that with Euphoria, or heck, even if you just place Paranormal all over lid and crease, because this mauve tone has a little bit of warmth, having Gold Nectar on the inner corner instead of Pale Fire, I think is a nice combination as well. But the reason why I had to give it to Vie En Rose is simply because of the performance, just the well thought out selection here, where I think Pat fully committed to zeroing in on the electric vibrant purple, and then branching out into not so much softer shades, but different tones of the same, right? Euphoria and Purple Rain together, my goodness, or Rose Risque just by itself, or pairing Paranormal with any of these shades. The Paranormal matte, that's the key. You need a matte like that to really help dominate the color story you're presenting, right? It helps any of these shades come forward in that smoky way that you don't have to rely on a neutral matte for. Paranormal, it's just like the backdrop. It's the backstage hands, you know, moving and shaking that's the shade, and that's the deciding factor why I chose this over Rose Decadence. As much as I love Rose Decadence, because that's also, you can argue, a monochromatic moment, I feel Vie En Rose has a little more punch and it's just more interesting overall. Even more interesting, in my opinion, than Vie En Rose. A selection from the Mothership holiday release, I believe in 2018. I actually featured this in my original top 5 Mothership list that when was that? 3 years ago, I believe. This is Dark Star. You knew I was gonna have Dark Star all up in here. And mainly is because of Deep Space. Deep Space, this beautiful gray matte that has a little bit, you see that little bit of blue that exists? Allow me to swatch for you. When I used this matte for the first time, it just was like, this is the color. Because grays can be tricky, but when it has a little bit of that slate blue tinge to it, and the other shades in here lean blue, is a great time. So why don't we go through them? Interstellar kind of reminds me of Blitz Amethyst, except Interstellar is a traditional metallic, but it has that dual chrome flip to the shade. Look how beautifully paired that would go. Please. Metropolis, ooh, compared to Purple Rain, right? Metropolis is giving you eggplant. Purple Rain is giving you like neon electric purple. Oh, that is just so gorgeous. I love this shade. This deep, rich eggplant. All over the lid, lower lash line, and then to possibly buff out the edges with Deep Space. I know. Then you got Dark Matter. Dark Matter, different from Extreme Black. Extreme Black is the matte found in the original 3 Motherships. Dark Matter is a whole other thing. Like, this is appropriately named. Look how rich that black is. And it is more of like a satin. I wouldn't say metallic because it doesn't have the pearl in there, but there's more adherence to it, because Extreme Black I would mainly use for blending purposes, intensifying purposes. Dark Matter, that's the shade you apply. Okay, that's the shade you apply all over your lid and crease for that eye. You know what I am talking about. The deep black hole eye that many people wish to achieve, but it seems scary because they don't want to end up with raccoon eyes. But this shade right here, look, I'm telling you. Now, my critique probably for Deep Space, you know, we got Entice, which is like this champagne leaning type of a gig. And then we got Enraptured, which is a warmer gold. Would have loved maybe one of these shades to be swapped out for another moment here, but it's fine. It's fine. You know, strange that she didn't go cooler with the golds in here. It works out. Entice looks okay with Metropolis. It is neutral-ish enough, and Enraptured has also an antique element to it. Clearly looks gold, but not as yellow gold. You know what I mean? So you might have to be a little more, you might have to hold back in terms of how many combinations you can do. I would argue though, it will be a fun time combining Deep Space and Enraptured, right? If you combine the antique gold with the gray, you could pop the gray all over crease and then Enraptured on the lid and see what happens. That's kind of what happened when I was experimenting with Divine Rose 1 on my Close Friends Live. When you mix cool and warm, depending on their placement, I think can yield a beautiful eye look. And you just have to experiment and have fun with Dark Star, see what comes up and not make assumptions before you play, because if you do, you might discover fantastic combinations. Moving on to number 4. Are we almost done? My goodness. Now this is also discontinued, but it was funny. This palette, there was so much hoopla around this palette because It was released, I think, when it wasn't supposed to, and then I posted about it. People were like, how come this palette's not available? Okay, this was the Mothership Sublime. So this is from the Sublime series. Golden Opulence, I think from their Lunar New Year release. One of their more beautifully designed 6-pan palettes, because this is all red glitter and you have the Pat McGrath logo. This is what I do to hold these suckers open, because the tri-flap is a pain. But back to Golden Opulence. Listen, you can't go wrong with 2 mattes that are fairly neutral, and the other metallics in here are like the pinkish coral tones. So for instance, let me get my shade card here. Tranquility. Tranquility was one of the more low-key mattes out of the entire Pat McGrath portfolio in this stage, right? Because we have that one shade from Bronze Seduction that, even though it appeared lighter than the other 2 in there, it still packed a punch. And then we had Taboo from Midnight Sun. That was the perfect kind of tone of tan brown that gave really nice shading to the crease. But Tranquility was even softer, right? And then you have Prosperity, which is more of like a red toned dark brown matte. I thought just beautiful. This is such a lovely shade. It's kind of like mahogany leaning, but more brown leaning. And you can argue the other metallics in here on the more basic side 100%. So Eternal Opulence is like your nude, kind of basic champagne nude metallic. Moon Phase is basic, but ooh, it's kind of like a rose gold metallic shade. I just love the tone of that pink. It's so beautiful. And because Prosperity has a little bit of that red, it matches so well. And then Lotus Luxe has a little more kind of like glitz in there. It's not glitter, but there are bigger particles in that shade that have a little more of like that twinkle effect. Gold Fortune, of course, we had to have the gold. This is definitely more gold leaning, right? Compared to the other golds that we've seen, this basically matches the logo pattern on the palette. So even though Golden Opulence is one of the more basic 6-pan offerings from what I have, I just enjoy the ease of it. I don't have to think about it. I could put together whatever combination. Tranquility serves as a beautiful transition shade for any of the metallics in here, but Prosperity I really love. This matte, it has the depth, but it also has a little bit of warmth, and I just love that tone when it's blown out on the outer corner. It's just lovely. So now we have arrived at our last one. I forgot how much I loved this 6-pan palette. Of course, it's not available anymore. I'm sorry. And I was going back and forth because you could argue this kind of gives you Golden Opulence vibes, 100%. But this is the palette that I have on my eyes now. I actually have 2 different metallics, so you can kind of see what it can do. This is no other from the 2018 holiday release, Bronze Temptation. Bronze Temptation, because it's from the Sublime family, she had to put the green in here to kind of juxtapose or more so correspond with Blitz Emerald. I lost the overlay card for this, so I gotta see, and I have to try to match up I know Corruption is Corruption 100%, but the other ones might be a little tricky. Burning Desire. I think Burning Desire might be this one. This is definitely Supernova. This is definitely Corruption. This dual chrome here, it could be Provocatrix. So what will be Dark Paradise? I think this will be Dark Paradise. And that would be Celestial. Okay. We're going to stick with that. Burning Desire has a little more tan, you see, compared to, what was it again? Tranquility. Tranquility found in Golden Opulence. Tranquility is giving you a little more of like that beige brown. But my goodness, Burning Desire, I have it through the crease, and ooh, it's like Saddle. It reminds me of Saddle, like the old school MAC Saddle with that warmish tan hue. But it doesn't carry over to orange. It really all depends on your skin tone. I definitely understand. But this shade here, Dark Paradise, it reminds me of the, I believe it's dark in the original Sublime, but it's more of like a neutral, and I love how it looks when blown out and blended out. I think this is a beautiful pairing. It's almost like an edited version of what's found in Bronze Seduction between, oh, what are those shades called? It's killing me. It kind of might look like what's in Venetian Sunrise. Entrapment. Entrapment is the lightest matte out of all the mattes found in Bronze Seduction. Disobedient is giving you that dark brown. So I feel like this is a more subdued Entrapment and a more, or I guess kind of like Disobedient, but you see how that has a little bit of like plum in there compared to Deep Velvet. Yeah, Deep Velvet definitely has more like that eggplant undertone to it, whereas here in Dark Paradise is a little more plummy. But I just love how that translates when blended out. And the other shades in here, so I have Corruption on this shade. Corruption, when it was first introduced in this palette, it was like, oh my gosh. I know it's a duochrome we've all seen before. It's the, like that rich copper, or the what copper is one of the flip shades, but you first see like this maroon, right? This is what you see on the swatch, but when you turn the pan, I need like another light source here. Let me see if I could make this happen. Creamy, just my goodness. There it is. So you see that the flip shade is that copper shade, but because of the copper, it makes it almost like a neutral when you pair it with Dark Paradise and Burning Desire. Is such a lovely combination. And even though it's red, it doesn't have that same in-your-face effect like Blitz Flame does found in Bronze Seduction. I love that shade. It's a Blitz shade, so the shine is outrageous. It's like pow wow. But sometimes if I wish to wear something from the red family, I need it to be a little more earthy, so I feel it's just, I feel like I could pull it off. You know what I mean? Paired with Provocatrix. Provocatrix is the other duochrome in here. That's what I placed on this side. And this is almost like the inverse. Well, I would say the base is like that red, and the flip is more of like a greenish gold. So let me pull out the second light source again. I don't know if you could tell, but it's, ooh, I love the shade. And I have it on top here. Is so fun because even though it's a duochrome, is not so crazy and out there that you don't feel it appropriate to wear during the day, but you most certainly can, especially if you pair it with Dark Paradise and blend out the edges with Burning Desire. Or you could go super simple, and what is this shade called? Celestial, just Celestial. I have Celestial on the inner corners, and this has beautiful shine. It's more of like a neutral golden champagne. It's a beautiful color. We got a lot of these skin show shades across all the 6 pans, but Celestial's pretty special, I gotta say. I don't know what it is about that color. You know what I mean? It's just, it has nice brightness. It has beautiful brightness to the finish. Then Supernova. So the great thing about Supernova, and including a shade like this in a mostly neutral palette, you know, given that it is a holiday palette appropriate with these other shades present, Supernova, I think, beautiful to wear all on its own. You could pair it with Burning Desire or Dark Paradise, or just buff out the edges, have it solo on the lid, and then pair it with Celestial, or even pair it with Provocatrix if you wanted, or go super Christmas and pair it with Corruption if you want it. And I did the inverse, so I placed Provocatrix here on the lower inner half with Corruption on top, and did the flip. Provocatrix on the lid, and then Corruption here along the lash line. And even though, you know, let me, hold on, because sometimes what I see on the viewfinder can be different from what I see up close. Provocatrix is a shade, man. It does look better in person, 100%. And then with Celestial, I adore this shade as a highlight shade. Again, it just has that brightening effect to the inner corner, and it pairs so well with the other shades. And the tone of Dark Paradise is absolutely perfect. Although it might look intimidating on the pan, it applies and blends out well. It gives you that right amount of smoke, and it has, or you have that control in your hand so it doesn't look too smoky or too raccoon eye. I think the tone chosen for Dark Paradise was perfect with Burning Desire, right? And again, Burning Desire, that tan brown, man, especially because Corruption has that copper flip. I mean, it perfect together. Now, I wanted to mention honorably the reason why I didn't include this palette in my top 5, but I still wanted to mention because of a few accomplishments that I acknowledged in this palette. It is the Bridgerton palette. Hold on, listen to me. It is the second release of the Bridgerton collection. Although I think this color story is not as fluid as the first release, although I can't stand the packaging because I feel like, as someone has said, this is something like I would see from Too Faced, I do like the fact that they included more specialized finishes in this palette. This shade right here, Diamond's Desire, has so many different colored pearls in here. The twinkle effect is crazy. I don't think you fully understand. It's something that you have to swatch yourself and see yourself. But look at that. Incredible. And you've seen from all the shades that I swatched from my top 5 choices, mostly Haus metallic and matte formulas. But the Bridgerton release, we had some like an astral moment. Not quite, because she didn't call it astral. She called it Diamond's Desire, but it is baked and it does have that twinkle effect like Astral Solstice from Divine Rose 1 and Midnight Sun. This shade is like Gigabyte, and that's also baked shade. And then you have these eye blushes, also baked. It has more of a like a softer satin hue to the blend. The reason why I didn't include this, and I was going back and forth, is because I think this is a tougher color story to pull off, meaning you have to hold back on a few fronts. This, I feel, specifically Forever Charmed, you will have to apply all on its own, because to pair it with Forbidden Amour, I have to try it. I gotta try it. Maybe, close friends, that will be our next edited video, diving back into Bridgerton 2, because I am curious to see what that will do, right? And this mint shade, Dare and Dandy, you could either place on the inner corner or lower inner lash line, but because it can look so frosty by itself on the lid, and when you pair it with Forbidden Amour, which is like that mauve, you know, it could look a little like, what am I trying to do? So I might have to give this another shot, because Diamond's Desire, Forever Charmed, the blush shade, or they're called eye blushes, but specifically this is called Regency Romance. It has a lovely texture to it. It's baked. It's not a matte. It's not a metallic. It has just a soft finish to the blend. It'll be interesting if Pat ever released more shades in that formula. I think that'll be great, especially with those who experience texture issues on their lids, to have a formula that's like this blush eye formula, that's soft and very skin-like in finish. It doesn't have the same heftiness as the mattes, is a nice change, right, in terms of what's available to them. But those are my 5. These are the ones out of my entire collection that are my favorite, that when I open them and use them, I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to start this eye look. Let me know what your faves are down below. And again, as I said at the beginning of the video, it was tough for me to figure out which are my favorite, because I do love them all for different reasons. But I think some considerations were the formulation consistency, like what you find in Platinum Bronze. All the metallics in that palette are crazy good, even still to this day, well after their suggested shelf life time. They're still giving. And I know Golden Opulence is like a little bit of a cop-out, because yes, it's not like Dark Star, right? And I was also thinking, well, maybe I should include one of the Star Wars palettes, the original Rise of Skywalker collaboration, Galactic Gold and Dark Trooper. I forgot the name of the, no, Stormtrooper palette, but I just had to go with Golden Opulence because these are just my shades. These are my shades. These are my shades. You have a lot more versatility, I feel like, where the Star Wars palettes, specific, right? The pink and the magenta, the amethyst shade, like that's how I feel about bronze seduction. I gotta be in a certain state of mind to hop in bronze seduction, special occasion, event, pizzazzy. Golden Opulence kind of just embraces me in a easy way. I don't feel pressured about eyeshadow. What are you saying? I don't feel the need to like go over the top. I could just achieve an eye look that's soft and beautiful because of what's present here. So let me know what your favorite 6 pans are below, just as you did with our Mothership video. I would love to know what those are, and I'll see you down there, friends. Until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you in here again with another review tutorial, McGrath extravaganza. The quads are coming up next, or I'll see you at the Close Friends membership if you want to see lives and more eyeshadow tutorials. Take care, and I will see you again soon.